Hi everyone, this is Ellie with Poppy Seed Beading, and today I'm going to discuss how to tie off thread and then add some new thread when you run out of thread when you're working on an active project. So this is just a simple square stitch. And I've left about 6 inches of thread here because you're going to need some extra thread when you go to tie off. I know it's tempting to bead up until you only have about 2 inches or an inch and a half, but no, you're gonna need some thread. So first things first, what you want to do is my thread is exiting this bead here. First things first is you stitch away from it. So what I'm going to do is just stitch down this column of seed beads. Then I'm going to find a gap in the thread, or a gap between beads where there's a thread, like so, and I'm going to stitch into it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a loop here, and then I'm going to put my needle through a loop and pull tight. Now this is called a half hitch knot. I'm going to do it again. And now I'm going to continue to stitch away. Now I've seen some videos where it is suggested that basically you tie a bunch of knots. However, I don't do that. I typically tie 1 or 2 knots because I've always read that the more knots you make, the more tension points there are in the bracelet or in the beading that cause to wear over time. I don't know if that's true, so do whatever makes you feel comfortable. I usually only will tie a couple of knots. So here's another one. I stitch a little further down and I'm going to tie another half hitch knot. Now here's where you snip it. So one thing, if you are going to snip it with scissors, I would stitch away from the second knot. I would go down here and then snip. So that way your thread doesn't unravel, or the knot doesn't unravel. However, I'm going to burn the thread. So basically what this is going to do is cauterize the knot, which makes it very difficult to unravel. Like, you know, when you see people will burn the edge of a ribbon so that it won't unravel. Basically, we're doing the same thing here. So this is the Thread Zap 2 by Beadsmith. This is really old. We're probably looking at 5 or 6 years old. So it takes a while to heat up, although I did recently get new heads. I think it's, yeah. Oh, it's hot enough for sure. All right, so now what I'm going to do is find the knot and cauterize it. There we go. And then I just tap, 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 tap that knot there so it gets nice and cauterized. All right, so now what we're going to do is add the new thread. So I've pre-cut a length of new thread. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to probably start down here and stitch through a couple of beads. And I'm going to pull until I have about, what is this? 2 or 3 or 4 inches of tail. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find the gap in the thread, or a gap between beads where there's thread, and I'm going to loop into it. And then I'm going to pull my knot through. I'm going to tie that nice and tight. Now I'm going to stitch. Now notice when I was tying off the original thread, I tied off on the left side on the gold. I'm adding the thread to the right side just so there's not an excess of tension on this side. This will help keep tension even on both sides of the piece. So now I'm going to tie another knot, same thing, this is called a half hitch knot, and pull through. Oh, what's going on here? There, oh, just gotta tie it nice and tight. And then I'm going to stitch the rest of the way. So now my thread is exiting where I left it off. So I can now just continue to do my herringbone stitch. Pick up one, pick up a gold, stitch into the gold. Look at that, we're all ready to go. So I'm going to actually snip off, or burn off I should say, the rest of the tail that we added here. There we go. Oh, nope, not quite. Okay. Now, I didn't really need to burn it because I did not cauterize that knot since the knot was up a little further, but it's fine. You could have just snipped that. I will say, just make sure that if you are snipping with scissors, instead of burning a knot, just make sure that you stitch your thread away from the knot so it has some thread there to keep the knot tied so it doesn't unravel. All right, that's how you do it. We're all done. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe for more content, and you can always check out my Etsy shop for some of my patterns. PoppyCBeadingCo.etsy.com. All right, have a great rest of your day and happy beading.